Okay, so the end results are, even though I used a iron-on stabilizer in this one, which I did not iron on, that would have probably helped a little bit. But even with the stabilizer in it, this presser foot A, I did get some skipped stitches. Then presser foot D, actually it may have skipped one stitch out of all that, but other than that, presser foot D, the Kenmore super high shank presser foot D, sews just as well pretty much as the Q foot on the stretch knits. And this is a super stretchy, super stretchy four-way stretch fabric. Super lightweight, that's 2 layers. I did not use Q needles. I used the Schmetz size 70 SES, which is a ballpoint stretch needle, and it's the needle system 130 has a round point, but it's basically equivalent of, I believe, a size 10 needle, and they're standard sewing machine needles other than being the ballpoint for knits. But anyway, so if you have presser foot D and you don't have presser foot Q, you should, if you use the correct needle and the right thread for your fabric, you should be able to get just as good of a stretch stitch sewing, even without a stabilizer. If you use a small enough needle for your knits, you shouldn't get the skip stitches. Always hold your thread tails when you start sewing. However, you need the beginning where you start your seam to be held firmly in place, though, with super soft knits. If possible, start your seam so that the very back of your fabric is just back here, so it's under the presser foot. Sorry, not back there, but basically under the back of the presser foot. You need to have the fabric actually on the feed dogs, and past the needle opening in order for the presser foot to control it well enough. Basically, presser foot Q and presser foot D both have the same size of a teeny tiny tunnel in the bottom. It's a very faint tunnel. I don't know if you can see that, just barely, like a piece of paper thick ridge of tunnel, similar to a satin stitch foot, but not as tall of a tunnel. And that seems to help control the fabric well enough that even though these are super thin, super stretchy, it still manages to do a great job on sewing right on the edge of the fabric, which is, to try to do it like a serger looking kind of sort of seam without using a serger or a serger presser foot. If you do your seam slightly away from the edge, you will have an even stronger seam and less trouble with your fabric typically. But anyway, so you can use presser foot D. You can use presser foot A, but you are going to get more skip stitches with presser foot A with the flat bottom than you will with presser foot D or the Q foot.